Hey guys, Wilson from On the Mewve here, and today we're going to do a little install video, but this one is not for my camper. This time we're going to be doing my father-in-law's camper because I've already done this to my camper and really liked it. So we're going to install a couple of soft starts today, something that's going to help us out. If you've ever wondered about going to a campground and not knowing if you're going to have the right setup or right hookups, 50 amp versus 30 amp, this can help you out. If you've got two air conditioners, you'll be able to run both of those off of a 30 amp hookup, so you don't really have to worry as much about what kind of site did I get. You can also run your air conditioners off of a generator. If you have a 30 amp generator, 3500 watt type generator, you'll be able to run both of those without any problems, and you'll be able to keep yourself cool in the summertime. Stay tuned. So I've actually already installed these soft starts on our camper, and I want to go ahead and do this for my father-in-law, mother-in-law, because they were worried about the issue of having 50 amps and 30 amps when they're camping. And just in case they're out boondocking, they'll be able to use this and not have any issues. So inside the box comes a soft start diagram, some instructions. They actually have a lot of good videos on their page that help you out, so you can find pretty much everything you need. They have great customer service if you need to use it. Inside the box comes everything you need. So we bought 2 units because we have 2 air conditioners. You have your connectors and fittings. We have our actual soft start unit, which we're going to install inside of the shroud that covers the air conditioner. All right, so what tools do I need for this particular install project here? Well, just a couple of simple tools that most of us have laying around. So I need a pair of lineman pliers. These come in real handy for crimps and also for cutting any kind of wires that I need. A needle nose pair of pliers might be handy in certain situations. Definitely our wire strippers. These are great. You can either use a screwdriver, handheld, or a DeWalt type driver, electrical tape, and then of course our packet of materials that came with the kit, and our soft start unit over here. So our first step here is going to be uninstall the cover. So we're going to go ahead and take this off. There's a couple of screws, and they're pretty simple to get out. Should be about 4, maybe 5 of these. So our next step is to find our electrical connections on this air conditioning unit. They are all located over here under this gray box. This is where all our wiring is housed, and so this is where we'll end up making most of our electrical connections. So one of the first things we want to do is we want to figure out where our wiring, where our unit is going to be mounted. We don't want it to be in a hot area, and so this particular area back here is where the fan comes out. We do not want it to be right there because that'll heat up too much. So we're actually going to mount this down in this compartment, and my wires will cooperate. We'll be out of the way. It'll be touching this rubber washer here away from our heat source, and we have a nice place to run our lines and our wires in through this opening, which we'll have to run across the unit, and then we'll wire into our capacitor on this side. The next step is to locate the capacitor. The capacitor is this round unit. There should be a board. There should be quite a few wires in this particular area, and we're going to have a Herm part of the capacitor, which is where your red wires are. You're going to have the fan more than likely, which will be this one single brown wire, and then you're going to have the C area of the capacitor where all these white wires are hooked in. Your unit may be different than this particular unit. This is a Dometic, so you'll have to seek the instructions from the manufacturer to make sure that you have the correct wiring for your particular unit. So our first step here is to find our yellow wire. We're going to run our yellow wire from the soft start unit to the Herm capacitor. So there's going to be one open prong on that Herm capacitor. That's where all of your red wires come into, and we're going to install one of our connectors. Like this, and onto our wire, our yellow wire, and then we're going to make this install process very nice and smooth. Now we're going to make this connection to the Herm capacitor. So hopefully you can see this yellow wire is now installed onto the Herm capacitor, and we now have no more open prongs on this side of our capacitor. So our next wire we're going to connect is the black wire from the soft start, and there's a particular connector in here. It's a yellow connector, and it has two prongs, or an extra prong here, so that you can connect this onto your C, because there are no more prongs open on the C side of your capacitor. There's 4 connections already there, so we're going to remove one of those connections and we'll add it to this connection. All right, now we've made this connection. We have our black wire from our soft start running to the C side of the capacitor, and we also have our white wire that is coming from our fan unit, and it's coming down to the capacitor here. So next what we're going to do is we're going to find our white wire that comes from the compressor, which is on the other side, and we're going to follow it all the way over until we get here where our connection goes down to the capacitor, and now we're going to cut this wire. Next step is we're going to take our blue wire from our soft start unit, and we are going to connect our blue wire to our white wire from the compressor. I'm using the connectors that came with the kit. They are rated for this air conditioner and for the most part waterproof. We're going to make sure we have a good crimp. Make sure these fittings are nice and tight. So we're going to take our white wire that we just cut. We splice the end from the blue soft start wire to the white wire that goes to your compressor, and the end on the capacitor we're actually going to tape off, just in case we ever remove the soft start. Maybe if you sold it and you want to keep it, you could reattach. We don't want to leave this live wire open either. Now we're going to find our blue wire that comes from the capacitor. Our wire is kind of a purplish color here on this particular unit, and our instructions tell us to go about 10 inches. So we're just going to kind of estimate here about 10 inches back where this blue wire is, and we're going to cut this wire. So now we're going to splice our blue wire from the compressor to the brown wire from our soft start. Check our connections, and we're good. I'm just going to put a little tape, that way it secures this, maybe to save it from having so much vibration going down the road and any chance for these connections to come undone. Now we're going to take the other end of the blue wire that came from the compressor, and we're going to splice it to our red wire coming from the soft start. A little electrical tape. I personally don't think you can use too much electrical tape. I love electrical tape. All right, we've made all of our connections. So our last step here is to remove the red wire from our capacitor, or you can cut it, that goes to the PRTC. So I'm just going to remove, and I'm going to tape off the end as I've done here. That way it is out of the way, and if I ever need to use it again, my connection is still there. So everything's taped off. Everything looks to be secure. I'm going to put a tie strap around this side just to make sure everything stays out of the way. And then we can plug it up and make sure everything runs correctly. All right, so we're going to install our cover back on. Now we're ready to mount our soft start. It has a 3M piece of tape on the back, so we're just going to peel this off. I'm going to mount it to this piece of plastic on the back side. There's a place for you to put screws in. Of course, we have a piece of foam here, so that's in the way. We could mount 2 screws on the bottom, but in the location it is, I don't think we're going to have any issues with just using the 3M tape and it connecting to the plastic underneath. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have our person down below start this thing up. We're going to make sure everything runs correctly, make sure the compressor cuts on, because that is one of the most important parts of this install. If the compressor does not cut on, then we don't have air conditioner. We just have air blowing through the unit. Disclaimer, please don't run your air conditioner with the top off for more than 10 minutes, because it will cause it to overheat, and then you may have a serious issue. fan is cut on. The compressor has now engaged, I hear it. And cold air is coming out. We want to confirm this by going downstairs, double checking, making sure everything's running correctly. So our last step is to reinstall the cover. Need to remember to put our 4 screws back in. Remember, don't over tighten because this is plastic. And that's all there is to installing the soft start kits. Very easy to do. Takes you about 45 minutes to an hour to make sure you have all the connections. If you know the wiring diagrams very well, you can probably do it in 30 minutes or less. So pretty easy process, and now we can run this air conditioner off, or the whole RV off of a 30 amp instead of 50 amp, which can really make it a lot easier for us to find spots in an RV park. Hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you to learn how to do something for yourself today to save yourself some money, or just to make RVing a little easier on you. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. We'd love to have you follow along with our journey as we visit different places throughout the United States, and as we give you some knowledge on some RV how-to. See you next time.